Welcome back, Defenders. Jake here. It's finally happened. Ukraine has received their first batch of F-16 fighter jets. 6 in total, with more coming soon. This has been confirmed by the Associated Press and officials from Lithuania. But you don't need to listen to them. You can see it with your own two eyes. Ordinary Ukrainians on the ground have captured their first pictures and videos of F-16s in the skies over their country. And this is not an accident. This is the Ukrainian Air Force making their announcement, deliberately flying this jet over the city center of Lviv at a low altitude in broad daylight. This was an announcement. They're in it to win it. For the last 2.5 years, Russia has failed to achieve air superiority, air dominance, and Ukraine is getting new capabilities to contest the skies and take the fight to Russia. So this is what is being unlocked. The limitation on what we can give to Ukraine is, what do we have in our inventory? What can we produce domestically? And these aren't enough amounts of ordnance and materials to satisfy ground forces. So we need to deliver these F-16s to unlock all of these missile types that we have in NATO inventories. This is what we've been waiting for, the arrival of these F-16s, so that we can equip Ukraine with new capabilities. According to the Wall Street Journal, the United States plans to equip these F-16s with advanced missiles. Okay, what kind of advanced missiles? The US plans to equip these F-16s with AGM-88 HARM air-to-ground missiles. These are missiles that can go after air defense systems and radar installations, joint direct attack munitions, these are JDAMs, and small diameter bombs to go after Russian ground forces. But these are the missiles that I think are going to be the most exciting. The country will supply advanced medium-range air-to-air missiles, known as AMRAAMs, and short-range air-to-air missiles AIM-9X. So the AMRAAMs, I think in time, these F-16s are going to start going after Russian jets close to the border. These are the Russian jets dropping Fab 500s on Ukrainian positions. But the AIM-9Xs, these are sidewinders. And what I think the Western Alliance is trying to do is they're trying to lower the cost of air defense missiles. To get a missile off the ground into the air to intercept, it's more complicated, it's more expensive. But a missile that's already on a jet, going at a speed, being fired off in the air, these are less complicated missiles and cheaper to make. So this is what Ukraine is going to prioritize these early F-16s. Ukraine's new F-16s are already active in air defense. These sidewinders can go after Russian missiles and Russian drones. This is a new capability to alleviate the burden on Ukraine's air defense systems and the supply of air defense missiles coming from the West. So 2 nights ago, Russia launched another night attack, this time 89 Shahed drones and 1 X-59 cruise missile. And thankfully, every single one of them were shot down. I don't think the F-16s were involved. But in future air attacks, when Russia's planes take off, these F-16s are also going to take off. And they're going to be in the skies shooting down these drones and missiles. They're going to attempt to. But just think about how complicated this is for Ukraine's integrated air defense network made up of NASAMS and Patriots and old Soviet systems. These F-16s are going to be in the skies along with drones and missiles. Everything has to be deconflicted. We don't want Ukraine to accidentally shoot down one of their own planes. So this is incredibly complex. This is why this has taken 18 months since the announcement of these F-16s to arriving today. All the training, all the logistics, the maintenance, standing up the airbase where these F-16s are located. Every day, Ukraine improves in their capabilities, but this is still incredibly complicated. I do want to read the statements from President Zelensky. talking about the Russian attack from 2 nights ago. 89 Shahed drones were shot down last night, all of those used by Russian terrorists during the attack. And this is an important result. Ukrainians can fully protect their skies from Russian strikes when they have the sufficient supplies. What's the Kremlin's response? Kremlin says F-16s delivered to Ukraine will be shot down. Putin's spokesman Dmitry Peskov said that any F-16s delivered to Ukraine would be shot down and have little impact on the battlefield in response to the jets arriving. So let's pause the video and just state the obvious. I want to read this tweet from Tataragami. He's a former Ukrainian officer. Deliveries of HIMARS, Western tanks, Storm Shadow missiles, ATACMS, and F-16s did not start a nuclear war. This is an undeniable fact, proven over time. The excuses for delaying or denying these deliveries were bullshit, regardless of how some people tried to spin it. This is the game we've been playing for the last 2.5 years as the West. Can we do this? Can we give this without Russia nuking one of our capitals? And apparently, the answer was yes. The answer was always yes. We could have got Ukraine all of these weapons and tools and capabilities a lot earlier, a lot sooner. But we were afraid. We let Putin's empty threats of nuclear annihilation lead to a lot of tragic loss. So I know a lot of people who watch my videos, you know who Jake Sullivan is, President Biden's national security advisor, and he's the one who has set this policy. Yes, there's people like German Chancellor Scholz, who's also reticent about all of these deliveries. But I do want to say that we're going to get a new administration in 6 months. On January 20th, President Biden will be leaving office. I hope President or Vice President Kamala Harris takes over, and we're going to get a new administration, new people in these positions to make these decisions. U.S. official tasked with imposing Russian sanctions joined Harris's campaign. So this man, Brian Nelson from the U.S. Treasury Department, was tasked with imposing and enforcing sanctions against Russia. He's resigned from the Biden administration to officially join President Kamala Harris's or Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign. There will be different people in these key positions in the U.S. government, and they will have different opinions. In addition to just history unfolding, and in retrospect, we can reflect on tweets such as this, and yeah, it was all BS. Everything from the Russians and Putin with threats of nuclear annihilation if you do this, it was always BS. Let's now check in with Putin's allies around the world. The Kremlin says Venezuelan opposition should just accept defeat. 4 days ago in Venezuela, they had a presidential election, and according to all available exit polling, the opposition won. The Democratic candidate clearly got more votes than Maduro. And miraculously, when the votes came in, Maduro got 51%. So the people of Venezuela are taking to the streets. They're trying to rise up. They're trying to get rid of their dictator. And all international organizations that observe free and fair elections have come to the conclusion this is not a free and fair election. Here's a statement from the Carter Center. Venezuela's 2024 presidential election did not meet international standards of electoral integrity and cannot be considered democratic. So what countries around the world are willing to recognize Maduro as legitimately elected in Venezuela? And its bastions of democracy, like Cuba, Syria, Iran, China, and Russia. These have been the only countries to recognize Maduro as the legitimate president of Venezuela. And of course, there's Viktor Orban of Hungary. Hungary blocks the EU bid for a unified statement on, obviously, the rigged Venezuelan election. So about 50% of all vetoes in the EU are done by Viktor Orban of Hungary. And something as simple as condemning a rigged election. If this is what Putin wants, Viktor Orban is just going to do it. Viktor Orban of Hungary is a Russian asset, and he's only there to cause trouble. I'm not European. I don't understand why the EU doesn't take action. Kick Hungary out of the EU, kick Hungary out of NATO. If the people of Hungary want to rejoin someday, they got to get rid of their dictator first. So here is what they are saying on Kremlin State TV, the advice that Putin is giving to Maduro to stay in power. This is incredible. The people of Venezuela, those who understand what another Maidan-like coup with the Ukrainian scenario is leading to, are fighting for their independence. In 2005, I led the Russian delegation at the World Festival of Youth in Venezuela. Hugo Chavez had just come to power. The people support those transformations. And despite all the economic difficulties, Venezuela has traveled a huge path during that time. However, the scenario is the same. The monuments of Hugo Chavez have been torn down. In Ukraine, Lenin's monuments were torn down. Why were Lenin's monuments torn down? Why are Hugo Chavez's monuments being turned down? And it's communism, it's socialism. They're not going to mention that on Kremlin State TV, but they like the authoritarian part of communist and socialist regimes. Incendiary mixture, the scenario is the same. It's just that Maduro, the Venezuelan National Guard, will show firmness when the Chinese leadership in 1989 at Tiananmen Square and Lukashenko in Belarus showed firmness, that's code for killing his own people, then even those who were deluded understood. In Bolivia, when the president came out and, in fact, together with the people, prevented the coup, then the power stood firm, and the people realized that this power gives an impetus to development. And because on Maidan they could not organize anything serious, gave away the state, and did not go for stern measures that would have led to peace. Hundreds of thousands of people now die. The leadership must have political will. I am sure that both Maduro and the Venezuelan people will be able to resist another coup. So this is the Russians saying the Chinese of 1989 in Tiananmen Square, when hundreds of Chinese protesters were murdered by their government, that is the example to follow. It's bad. So Russia is deeply involved in keeping Maduro in power in Venezuela. And there is a video online. I'll link this down below. These are National Guard and police getting ready to beat up protesters. And in this video, you have to see it for yourself. That is a Wagner soldier. That is a Wagner patch. That is a Wagner uniform. And based on his height, I'm going to guess this is a Russian and a Wagner soldier. So the Russians are in Venezuela. They're in South America to keep Maduro in power. And here's a clip I want to share of Maduro himself, speaking to his own police to motivate them to go out to the streets and fight for him, fight to keep him in power. This is what he's telling his own security forces on the streets.
Esta zona ha sido muy violenta, Bolivera, esta zona aquí, ¿ves? Entonces, me alegra mucho que ustedes estén protegiendo al pueblo. Estos son unos criminales. Tenemos más de 1.200 criminales capturados. Entrenados en Texas, Colombia, Perú y Chile. Los entrenaron con tiempo para que vinieran a atacar, a quemar. Este hospital de coche lo trataron de quemar, lo salvó la comunidad y ustedes. ¿Eso es protesta o lucha política? ¿Quemar hospitales? Eso es terrorismo, amigo. Eso es terrorismo. Eso es odio. Correcto. El fascismo, ¿esa gente está preparada para gobernar este país? No. Entonces, rodilla en tierra. Yo estoy en combate.
So the protesters that Maduro is trying to get his security forces to arrest and beat up and even murder, he's saying they're not real Venezuelans. They're from Texas, they're from Peru, they're from Chile, they're agitators, they're criminals, they're terrorists. Are you going to let these terrorists destroy that hospital behind me? Go out into the streets and save me. That's what dictators have to do. And this guy's a clown. Apparently, Elon Musk challenged him to an MMA fight or something, and on Twitter, and he decided to respond. So here's the dictator of Venezuela agreeing to fight the richest man in the world.
Elon Musk, quien se mete conmigo, se seca. Quien se mete con Venezuela, se seca. Elon Musk. ¿Quieres pelea? Vamos a darle, Elon Musk. Estoy listo. Soy hijo de Bolívar y de Chávez. No te tengo miedo, Elon Musk. Vamos a darlo, pues. Donde...
I wish this was funny. I wish we could all laugh that Elon Musk, who's crazy, challenged the dictator of Venezuela to a fight, and the dictator of Venezuela agreed to it. But people are dying. It's not funny. Like, this is a serious situation. And I just want to quick mention Elon Musk is being pretty weird about Venezuela. He's tweeting a lot about it. Elon Musk is pro-China and pro-Russia. Russia and China want to keep Maduro in Venezuela. But Elon Musk wants Maduro removed. And on Kremlin State TV, they decided to do a segment on this. I'll link it down below if you want to see it for yourself. But the Russians are accusing Elon Musk of supporting the democratic opposition because Venezuela is rich in bauxite deposits, and Elon Musk wants access to these bauxite deposits for his Tesla company. I'm actually going to go ahead and believe the Russians. Elon Musk only cares about Elon Musk, and yeah, that makes sense. We're going to move on. According to the Institute for the Study of War, Russian military lacks operational capacity to maintain their renewed summer offensive in Ukraine. So when we switch to the military map, once again, we can get out the ruler and measure Russia's progress. Let's say 2.5 years ago they started here, and now they're here. They've gone 28 kilometers in the last 2.5 years, while taking hundreds of thousands of casualties. So yes, Russia is advancing, they are making progress. They're willing to trade any amount of men and material to take a wheat field on average once per day. Are they going to reach the city of Pokrovsk? And I argue it's not going to happen this year. If it took them 2.5 years to go 28 kilometers, I don't think before this summer is over, they're going to advance another 17. It is possible they could close this gap if they're willing to dedicate and lose enough material and men. They're going to take these wheat fields. But Russia has a problem with the weather. Once we get into September and October, it's now mud season in Ukraine again. This will work to Ukraine's advantage because they're on the defense through the November election here in the United States. But all the experts are saying that Russia is running out of men. They're experiencing a recruitment shortage. There are still men in the pipeline going through training that they can continue resupplying these units, but I'm suspicious that Russia is not meeting their recruitment quotas. And here's a clear indication. Putin orders a $4,600 sign-on bonus for new army recruits. Putin ordered a signing-on bonus of 400,000 rubles, the equivalent of about $4,600 US, for new recruits to fight in Ukraine, the latest sign of a scramble to boost Russian troop numbers. The decree from Putin also recommends that regional governors offer an additional 400,000 rubles to residents in their regions. So if you're a resident of Moscow, the sign-on bonus is 1.9 million rubles, or about, close to $20,000. But for the rural areas, the bonus is now 400,000 rubles, and Putin recommends regional governors toss in another 400,000 rubles. In total, that's over $8,000 US. But here's the problem. Sometimes these Russian soldiers don't actually get their bonuses. Due to incompetence and corruption, their money is taken from them, Here is a Russian on the streets staring at this sign. And this $210,000 is the monthly salary. It's the advertised monthly salary of a contract soldier willing to go to Ukraine. And this is what this Russian has to say. The real deal, prestigious job, from 210,000 rubles a month. This is a Russian soldier filming this video of the recruitment poster, and he wants to highlight the word from in Russian on the poster. From, not up to, but from monthly. 210,000 rubles is about 2,000 US dollars. Here's the Russian soldier who's filming the video. So why is it that people who have signed a contract have a document that they are members of the SMO who have combat experience when transferred here to the Belgorod region between February and March? We only get 40,000 rubles. And some of us only get 15,000 rubles. 15. Most people can't afford to provide for themselves. Going on a combat mission, they cannot buy the things they need. Why such inhuman attitude towards the soldiers of the Russian army, where we are forced not to send money to our relatives and close ones, but, on the contrary, to take it from them? I went to Belgorod today and spent 51,000 rubles on a taxi and a hearing aid to hear the birds better. Yes, those birds. FPVs, Mavic, Baba Yaga, Valkyrie. It's a matter of survival. And the Akhmat battalion soldiers, these are the Chechens, wherever they are, they always get a lot more. So here's a Russian soldier filming a video in Belgorod of a recruitment poster saying, nobody's getting 210,000 rubles a month. They're getting 50 or even 15, which you can't survive on. Russian soldiers are always begging their loved ones at home to send them money or send them needed materials so they don't die, so they can continue fighting. Ukrainian drone downs a Russian Mi-8 helicopter in first such attack. Previous Ukrainian attempts to intercept Russian helicopters at the front line were unsuccessful. So yeah, this is a new thing. This helicopter had just taken off from an airbase in Donetsk, and Ukraine got it with a drone in the air. First time this has ever been done, but something tells me it won't be the last time. Ukrainian drones attack an oil depot. 5 drones shot down over Russia's Kursk region. This was a UAV attack on an oil depot in Kursk. There was also another oil refinery struck last night, this time in the Omsk region. I'll link the videos if you want to see it for yourself, but Omsk is nowhere near Ukraine. I mean, this is well over 1,000 kilometers, and this is Russia's largest oil refinery, but it's almost every night, and it's not going to stop until Russia goes bankrupt. And here's some good news. Russia's Gazprom net losses have nearly doubled year on year. So the Russian gas giant Gazprom suffered net losses between January and June, almost double of those from the previous year. Losses in the first half of 2024 equaled $500 billion rubles, or about 5.5 billion US dollars. Compared to the first half of last year, it was 2.9 billion. So yeah, this is a trend. We have multiple data points indicating that things are getting worse. So the fact that Russia's energy giant doesn't operate at a profit, there's no extra money to go to Putin. There's no extra money to support the war effort. Gazprom operates at a loss every single day, getting worse and worse. The only thing the company can do to survive, one, they can dilute shareholders by issuing more common stock, but who's going to buy the stock? 2, they can take on debts, but once again, who wants to issue debt to a company whose oil refineries are being blown up every single day? You only loan somebody money at interest if you think you're going to get that money back with a little bit for yourself. So this is just economic suicide for Russia. It's bad. YouTube users across Russia report sharp decline in loading speeds. The government of Russia has throttled the download speeds, so streaming on YouTube in Russia is not a good experience. But it's going to be blocked. The first week in September, YouTube will officially be blocked in Russia. There's positives and negatives to this, but in my opinion, the Russian people know. They know what's going on, and they don't care. They don't need any more evidence or information to change their mind. Only an economic collapse inside of Russia is going to get them to do anything about their dictator. This is hilarious. Italian authorities have seized a Russian oligarch's castle at Ukraine's request. Italian financial authorities have seized a Tuscan castle and other assets worth $44 million from the Russian oligarch Alexei Fedorochev, following a request from Ukraine. I just think this is hilarious. When you think about the ruling elite of Moscow and St. Petersburg, they were getting rich under the old rules before Putin decided to start invading other countries. This dude had his own castle in Italy, and now he doesn't have a castle in Italy. How do you think this Russian oligarch feels about Putin starting unnecessary wars? He lost his castle, oh my gosh. Get rid of Putin, and maybe you can have your castle back. Slovenia expels a Russian couple convicted of spying. I mentioned this in my last video, but Russia's spies are everywhere. And I think this is the wrong strategy. We need to stop deporting and expelling suspected spies. We need to arrest them. And if there's evidence they are spying, hold them. And don't let them go. Don't return them to Russia until we get our own people back. So this is the big news from the last 24 hours. Gershkovich, Whelan, Karamurza released in a major prisoner swap between Russia and the West. So Evan Gershkovich is a Wall Street Journal reporter who was arrested last year, and Paul Whelan is a former U.S. Marine who was arrested by the Russians in 2018. He's been in Russian captivity for 6 years. And this is a picture of them, I think, in the embassy in Turkey, but they're on their way back to the United States. Here's a picture in the Oval Office of President Biden with the families of the 3 American citizens, and then one is a U.S. green card holder, Vladimir. This is good news, but we don't have the details of who we gave up, what we gave the Russians to bring these American citizens home. It's good news. Final video I have for you is, unfortunately, what's become a very common love story in Ukraine. I wish these two a happy and blessed life together. That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.